So we're super excited to have you guys on. Sombra, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, that'd be
Sure.
great.
M- my name is Brendan, and I'm the founder of Sombra. We've got a great team behind us, but I'll be the one jumping into this AMA today. Basically, Sombra is a offshoot of a pre-existing visual effects studio out of New York City called Bonfire VFX, and this is sort of the Web3 and NFT division of the company. We're focused on NFTs and creating custom IP for the metaverse. And we have got our own NFT collection, 7,777 PFPs that act as Genesis passports into our larger ecosystem where you can trade them in for 3D versions that are fully mocap and game ready. And you can also own those characters outright as IP. And you can also play them in a play to earn game and own them in a TV show that we make. So we've got a lot of stuff going on, but we've got an ambitious roadmap, and I think we've been doing visual effects for a long, long time. So it's something where we're able to easily kind of transition over into the world of Web3 and NFT creation. And so we've got our Sins of Shadow NFT collection, which again is coming out on April 21st. So if you want to check it out, you should definitely do that. But when we have that launched, then people can then, like I said, take those PFPs and upgrade them to super dope 3D versions and then do a bunch of cool stuff with them.
That's cool. So it sounds like you guys are very broad and kind of like the graphics design and art of the Web3 aspects of crypto. And to be honest with you, I'm not super familiar with that, but I know that a lot of cool technology is used in Metaverse and in these 3D NFTs. And I guess what are the coolest things that you see in the art that is in the NFTs, and like the coolest innovations versus just your traditional paintings and graphic pictures?
I mean, I think there's all sorts of different ones, but I mean, for us at least, like the use of motion capture technology is specifically very unique, and people can basically use their NFTs as characters they can control with motion capture. And there's a lot of different solutions that we as a company are sort of offering to NFT holders, where we have partnerships with different motion capture providers that can set you up with something simple or something complicated depending on the quality level you're looking for and the price point. And basically, it's sort of, I think, a beginnings step into the metaverse where people can really kind of get their hands dirty with some sort of full integration into a digital world. And I don't think this is where it'll end up. I definitely think that there will be a lot of progression from here, and I think we'll be there to kind of take the ride and upgrade as we go. But this is sort of the beginning. People being able to sort of put on a haptic suit, haptic gloves. We have a partnership with a company called Manus, as well as XNs. You can look up those two companies. But Manus specifically has these gloves that are haptic, right? Where you can basically touch stuff with, explosions of air pockets. And so it replicates the feeling and sensation of touch when you're doing something like picking an object up or, high-fiving a friend or whatever. And that, again, is just the beginning. But, these are things that are avatars, and which are also, of course, NFTs, can actually do. And you can actually do all of these things with the avatars that we have. And the other thing that's interesting is that we have facial muscles inside our avatars. So if you wanted to, you could hold up your phone through pre-existing softwares and control your avatar's face. And we have an app that we're making right now where you can basically record yourself doing whatever you want, singing, cursing, recording a birthday message, whatever you want, and then send that basically to a pre-recorded body animation, and then it goes to TikTok or to Instagram or something like that, and you can customize it with backgrounds and little animations and stuff like that. So we've got a lot of use cases, I think, within the technical world of motion capture, which really is an immersive way of storytelling and people's ability to interact with characters. On a broader level, there's a lot of other innovation happening in NFTs. I think especially artificial intelligence is a big thing. And I think that's also a questionable thing in certain levels. People are using AI to create experiences, whether it's through one of the more cool ones I saw was using AI to create visuals for custom synthesized music and sort of ambient sounds and things like that. And it was really pretty beautiful. And it was more about the combination of audio and AI. But, there's other people that are using AI to make art straight up, which I don't think is necessarily as innovative. But, I think there are innovations within AI to create some pretty innovative NFTs. And then when you can couple that with blockchain sort of technology, I think that there are very interesting sort of progressions as well the art can make. I don't want to limit it to just this, but for example, you could have a whole collection of NFT hatchlings or little animals or something that then grow over time through AI and basically regenerate your NFT into a new image every year or something like that, so you can see how it grows. Like that's totally a possibility when you're using AI, and that's something where it would be automated and not controlled by the user, and so it's sort of supporting that decentralized sort of mentality much more so than a centralized entity creating a secondary version of it that then becomes the older version completely arbitrarily by a creative process. So there's a lot of cool things with AI that are happening, but I also think mocap AI. What else is happening? Technology wise, I think NFT audio is really an interesting one that we haven't really touched the surface of. Obviously music and different people are getting into that, especially Royal, if you're not familiar with them, doing sort of licensing for music through blockchain. But I think experience audio is going to be a big thing. Like Dolby Atmos NFTs are going to be a thing where people get like, in-home experiences and sort of like metaverse experiences and audio soundtracks that are running in 5.1 surround sound. And that's like super specific to like the project or something like that. So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot, and I think that we haven't even touched the surface yet of what's possible.
Yeah, you got a
That is
lot of
wild.
stuff.
For real. So do you notice that things are kind of coming up as you go, or is it something that is more people catching up to the technology that already exists?
What do you mean specifically?
So like are you guys finding that you're starting to realize that there is this tech and that you're going into, oh, let's try and expand here? Or is the tech still kind of developing as we go and for this specifically?
I think it's definitely developing as we go. I mean, there's a lot of pre-existing technology that we've been utilizing in the visual effects world, and we've got clients and we've done a lot of work in VFX that uses certain emerging technologies. But how you integrate that into Web3 is still being decided and determined. And I think especially with Metaverse, like that one concept is super like subjective and very confusing and not fully fleshed out or defined. And I don't think that in 3 or 4 or 5 years that's what we'll probably call it. I think it's a concept and it's an idea more than it is anything specific. And people get really hung up on like, oh man, like, are you creating a metaverse? And it's like, well, all right, yeah, I guess. But like, they're like, okay, well, what's your metaverse? And it's again, it's subjective. I think people's idea of what a metaverse is very different. But to us, a metaverse is an evolving process, and people are coming to the table every day from different companies, whether it's Amazon, AWS, or whoever. And we definitely think there's going to be, transition and evolution in the space. Yuga Labs now, is a huge player. We don't really know how that's going to unfold. I think, Bored Ape Yacht Club has done something specific that not a lot of other people have done, and people are, sort of looking to create these blueprints for what's the standard in this space. And, we don't even really have that yet. So I don't think Metaverse technologically or culturally is really figured out yet. And I think we're at least 3 years away.
Okay. I do agree. I think it's going to be something that gradually kind of finds its way forward, but that's kind of how all crypto has been. Like I could not have imagined NFTs, 8 years ago being this big. So can I ask, so you talk about, or you guys have, at least on your website, it talks about the Metaverse DAO, right? So how do you guys plan on integrating all these different NFTs with that? What's kind of the whole idea and thought behind it?
Well, the idea, I think, is that like, the NFTs that people own, are able to be staked in a bunch of different ways. And also they're able to sort of, I think, capitalize on the IP rights, obviously, as well as a lot of the other rewards financially that kind of come into the project, where we're able to sort of disseminate, different kind of airdrops and things like that based on the way that the project, is unfolding. And I think, by that I mean specifically, for example, the TV show, based on how characters perform each month, what they do and don't do. There's sort of like pre-existing pots of, reward cash, I guess, and different, things that people can earn. And that is sort of an incentivization to create sort of a Squid Games like mentality where people really want to like, get their character to do something specific, but they're fighting against the rest of the community. And it's also just like a fun competition in game, where like, obviously no one's dying. So like, that's cool. But, everybody gets to enjoy this like, really interesting hype driven television show that's super cool. That's like well written and enjoyable and created by industry professionals and, also done, for them to potentially make money.
Gotcha. Okay. That's interesting. So do you plan on allowing, or is it already set up? How is the artwork itself set up? Like, could I go and just create something right now? Or is it a little bit longer of a process?
What do you mean specifically? Like, we have like our own NFT marketplace, but like
Yes.
the NFTs, the PFPs themselves are sort of like Sons of Shadow is like a separate thing from the marketplace.
Okay. Gotcha.
So how long have you guys been working on this? Because this doesn't seem like the typical project that popped up like a month ago and then has a bunch of attention on it. Like, it sounds like something that's been in the works for multiple years. So like, when
it's been like a year that we've been doing the Sombra project, I guess, but it's, the Sins of Shadow thing has been like, a little under that, but close to a year, I'd say.
Okay, then how long have you yourself been into the graphics space?
How old am I? Like 14 years.
Oh wow, okay, so you are a veteran to say the least. Okay.
I guess. I have partners, that are much older than I am. I'm 35, and my partners are in their 50s and have been around for a long time. And we did all the NFTs for this, like for the Ticketmaster and NFL collaboration for 2021 and for the Super Bowl and playoffs and all that. And, we've got clients that are top level for visual effects, but, that's the whole thing is we're trying to move all these people into the world of Web3 and get them to take on, risks and sort of new opportunities in that space.
Yeah, we definitely need the younger people to help move those guys into this space and get them up to speed with where things are going in Web3 and all the exciting innovations happening.
Yes, for sure.
So, what are there any other like exciting things coming up in the short term that you guys want to highlight? And yeah,
I mean, for us, I guess, it's just the drop on the 21st. We are looking forward to having people jump in and grab some NFTs from us. We've got a partnership with Rarible that we're pursuing and some other things. But, on the 21st, you guys can jump in and grab an NFT and start to participate in the ecosystem.
Sweet.
So is that kind of everything kicking off, or have things started already?
Well, we already have our token, which runs on
Mhm.
Ethereum, Binance, and
Yeah.
Polygon. So you can pick up the SMBR token now, which is part of the ecosystem to come. And then, the NFTs, the PFPs are done and they're ready to go. We're just sort of, building some traction, and we've got a lot of conversations to have and some partnerships with Polygon to sort of sort out and stuff. And then from there, we've got our 3D models in the works, but we got to see what gets minted in the 2D stage. And from there, we'll move forward. But yeah, we've got everything in motion, games in motion, TV show stuff is ready to go. So we're good.
Sweet.
Okay. Cool. Do you have anything?
Yeah, actually, I got a question for you. Just curious, what are the biggest challenges that you faced in bringing up this project? It's a super cool project. It sounds like it has been and will be extremely successful. And I'm just curious what kind of challenges you've had to overcome to get to this point.
Well, I mean, money and people are the challenge. You like always want to, have more money, I guess, to do more things and go faster. So that's always like the primary challenge, I think. But then beyond that, it's finding people that you can trust. It's really hard to find people that are honest about their skill sets or about what their interests are, about what they're doing. And, you're always fighting a lot of different variables. People, don't, I think, understand how difficult it can be. Also, there's like that misunderstanding of complication of building something like a game. So I think that, it's just, people's demands and motivations are very complicated, and you have to really understand how to navigate those personalities, and it's not always easy. And on top of that, you really have to, figure out how to financially really, like, I think, budget things in a way that makes sense, so that, like, in times of bear markets, you're not having, regrets. It's definitely something where you have to just like be cognizant and like make sure that you're thinking clearly about that stuff. So
Yeah, good answer. We can definitely relate to a lot of what you just said, for sure.
Yeah, so with the amount of utility that your ecosystem has, how do you plan on integrating that and like allowing new users to come in easier versus like right now the process is pretty there's a pretty large barrier to entry for new people trying to get into crypto. Do you have anything planned to help break down that barrier for newer people to enter and get involved in your project?
well, we launched our Ethereum token recently, which I think is like allowing people to get involved, in an easier way. Acquiring Polygon or Binance can be more complicated for people globally, I think,
Yeah.
versus Ethereum. So Ethereum as an entry point for us is really important to give more people access. And I think that's really, really key, especially if layer 2 is successful. That could really be a revolutionary thing for everybody. And that, I think, will inadvertently really help. But beyond that, we have a lot of non-crypto related media based on our experience with visual effects and publications and things like that are going to probably allow us to sort of have these conversations with more and more people outside the world that are traditionally involved in NFTs. But beyond that, it's hard to gauge because, these two things do take time. So, we could see a crazy influx of users over the next 6 months, or it could, take another year and a half, 2 years. I don't know. It just really depends on the market as well. Like if the market bears out, then, people have less interest in a lot of this stuff. If it's exploding, then you've got just constant rampant FOMO where it accelerates the growth of everything.
Yeah. So
Sorry,
go ahead.
keep going. All right. So you mentioned that it's a little change of topic, but you mentioned that the conventional idea of what the metaverse is going to change a lot. And I completely agree with that. Where do you think your project is heading in terms of that? Because you said everyone kind of has a different idea. And I know you mentioned being able to send those messages and things like that to other people with whatever NFT you have. But where do you think that your project, what is the end stage of your project and how you're trying to integrate the metaverse aspect of, the NFTs and everything like that?
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yeah. So where is your project headed as far as the metaverse side? How do you plan on, and not like a technical piece of it, but more what is the end goal for the user side of what they can do with NFTs and as far as the metaverse goes? Because everyone, like you said, does have a different idea of what the metaverse is. So kind of what's yours in this project?
I mean, the metaverse to me is just community engaging in a really fun group experience through digital mediums and assets, and sort of I guess that is for us the game, and then obviously different chat communities and stuff. I don't think that the Ready Player One world is ready yet, but obviously we're all headed kind of towards that. At the end of the day, the idea to create a multi compatible user world where people can enter and exit and sort of be who they want to be, and play what they want to play. I think that's sort of the idea. But for us, it's sort of a GTA Counter-Strike mashup, where people can sort of be part of a community that earns them rewards and sort of like is a family in a sense that they can escape to when things are not so fun, and takes gaming, I think, to another level because, it does allow some integration and immersion into the world of gaming and Web3, with that level of community and, ownership over the game characters and the IP and, your ability to interact. But I think that, like, that's just the beginning. And as things move forward and projects do what they're supposed to do, there's going to be more developments and opportunities for people to create even more extreme experiences. And then from there, you're going to see, a whole new thing and a whole new playing field, like in a year, from now, where the things that are possible are crazy. So I think for us, we're really just trying to build a community that has fun together and enjoys, playing a game, as well as sort of supporting and watching a TV show and talking about the characters and sort of, competing for the progression of the story, sort of like a choose your own adventure book, but everybody has a say.
Do you have any idea when this game will be out? Is there any predicted date?
Well, we have a roadmap that incorporates certain dates. I mean, I think it is a little difficult to say specifically. I can say with confidence that if our collection sells out, that we'll be able to get it out under a year. I think that if the collection, was to sell less, then that does become a little bit trickier in terms of time. It takes more time because you've got to sort of like build out that, roadmap with a little bit more effectiveness.
Gotcha.
So, I think it's just one of those things where we're looking at like a, 7 months to, a year and a half, depending on the circumstances surrounding sort of like the drops.
Gotcha. Okay, and then how do you plan on integrating those rewards? Because I know you touched up on people earning rewards playing these games. Kind of what's the idea behind a reward earning? Is it going to be based on whatever part of the story you're in, or what kind of, I guess, what kind of reward system are you guys thinking of in your game?
Well, we have multiple rewards. It's all sort of based on the concept of being lawless and Westworldish. And so the idea is that, like, there's an arena in the center of our game. Basically, it's a huge map. There's different facets of the map, different place areas and neighborhoods and places, much like Grand Theft Auto that you'd be familiar with. And then, people can, roam around and they can live in different places or whatever. But in the center of the game, there's an arena, and that arena is where people compete for the Counter-Strike team deathmatch type games. Inside the arena, when you enter to play the game, you have to play with a team called a guild, and you have to put up SMBR token to play. And in order to do that, both teams have to put up a certain amount. And from there, then, the winner of the match takes all. So whatever team wins takes all of it. And then based on statistics of the game, MVP all the way down to the, least statistically impressive player, the earnings are distributed. And there's obviously like a little bit of it goes to the house and things like that, and so that is sort of one way where people can compete for, play to earn. But then also, if you don't want to play the game, you can spectate, and you can actually place bets on the matches and on the players themselves, so that you can gamble on like how the game is going to unfold, and like, even to some extent, get a little more granular with like, what weapon they may use to kill someone, or, whatever, with higher stakes betting. And that's sort of just the begin. That's like one aspect, right? So the other thing that's important to remember is that in order to get into the arena, you have to have cash to use it, an SMBR token. And you have to basically upload that into the system ahead of time. And, while you're traveling through the game, other players can rob you by killing you. And if that happens, then they take all your money and you're shit out of luck. So you have to be careful and travel sort of in packs with your friends and guilds. And there are economic opportunities for people to sort of become mercenaries and get protected, for crypto. And there's also opportunities for people to become Sombra Rangers, which are basically like Sombra cops. And if the Sombra cops catch you, then the money goes to the house, basically back to the project, and a little bit to the Rangers. So, it's sort of a play to earn Wild West ecosystem, I think, but set in sort of a cyberpunk dystopia. And there's multiple ways that you can earn money. And I think we're going to be evolving the reward structures and sort of opportunities within the game, progressively as we add more features and more things. But that's sort of where we're starting off. And, people can buy and sell different items such as, cars and houses and all of that. And we also have a creator economy where 3D artists can upload their different creations, and then it gets turned into game assets and minted into NFTs for the game. And thus they get a cut of the sales, and people can buy and sell, different types of NFTs and different styles from different artists.
Gotcha. That sounds awesome. It sounds like you guys have a pretty big plan for that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as far fetched, I don't think, as people think with Unreal and all of those experiences that we've had before, as well as people on our team, and just the ability with visual effects technology to kind of push boundaries. I think it's very feasible, far faster than people realize. So, I mean, Unreal 5 is a groundbreaking tool set, even though it's still in beta. There is a lot of opportunities for people.
Okay, so that's played a pretty big role in the amount of time you're going to be able to do this then.
Pardon? Yeah, I mean, it'll definitely speed it up for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like a really interesting game where you can actually lose money but also earn money. I don't think I've heard of a game, even even if it's like a virtual currency inside a game that doesn't have any monetary value, like being able to lose a currency in that sort of game now is not really a concept that is out there, at least from the games I've heard of. So that's
Well, you can do it in Grand Theft Auto, I guess, for that. But I mean, the idea is that like it's real world, like money that you're running around with to some extent. Like it's crypto and it's SMBR token, so whatever that's worth to you or at the time. But
yeah,
yeah, you can lose it.
that's interesting. So explain the whole like token ecosystem as of right now. Like what can you do with these the SMBR tokens, and I guess is there staking, or can you buy the NFTs with them, or any other utility that you have with them?
So at the moment, you will be able to stake with SMBR token at launch of the NFTs on the 21st. And so people can stake their different chains, whatever they want to stake. And then based on that, they'll get, an APY of the sales that we do. So 10% of the NFT sales are allocated to the community. And then it gets distributed based on how much you stake in SMBR. Then on top of that, if you stake your NFTs, you get a yield boost for the APY so that you can get a little bit extra as well. So you can buy more NFTs, stake a bunch, and then basically just get paid, as passive income. So that's sort of one way that it works. And then the other thing that we have coming up is once we start the game itself, you'll be able to buy and upgrade things in Polygon SMBR.
Okay, interesting. And then as you guys develop your game and other things on your roadmap, that utility will obviously expand to using it in game and for the in-game NFTs and utility with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole concept, is that it's going to be, the game currency within the utility. I mean, we're also developing another thing I can speak to quickly, but, the idea also is that you have to do things economically intelligently, and it's not always easy to create sort of reward structures for low market cap projects. So you have to be really careful with how you distribute some of that stuff, because it can really destroy your economics early on if you're not careful. So we're always very careful when we're sort of thinking about how we're going to be like selling things and sort of figuring out the process for it, because you do need to create a stable system and economy. That's something that not everybody does with games, and that's something that you have to be really careful about. So for us, we have the option to do SMBR now for certain things, but we're sort of going to wait until the game comes out, just because that's the main thing for us in terms of like the utility for the game. But on another front, we have some conversations going where we're looking into creating some opportunities for SMBR token for blockchain render sharing opportunities, where SMBR, this is a much bigger plan that we're working on, and not something that's fully announced, because we're not quite there yet. But we're working with a couple people and Polygon right now to implement technological things within SMBR that allow render sharing capabilities through your GPU and CPU at home, where you'll download nodes from Sombra and then basically allow a decentralized network of sharing of bandwidth. There are a couple other places and projects that sort of have some similar concepts, but this would be proprietary for the game itself, as well as for VFX work and rendering, because that's something that we're interested in.
That's kind of wild. I hadn't heard about any metaverse game doing that, because I know that different there are different ways to do that, but not through the metaverse. I don't think yet. That would be a first, right?
I don't know. There's Render Token, which is another token that sort of provides
Okay.
GPU sharing for I guess, rendering of like, video and VFX and stuff like that. So that is a pre-existing thing that does exist. I don't know how far along they are in that progress. And there's another company that does something kind of similar, but it's not so much for this, it's for video, which is Theta. That company that, Theta blockchain has been built specifically for streaming video and sort of decentralizing the, I guess, render times of video streaming. I don't really know how far along they are either, but I mean, these are things that have been in the works, I think, that people are doing. And, Polygon obviously has a lot of great, game solutions and dApps on there. And so that's something that we're discussing with them right now about offering up, a much more comprehensive technical infrastructure and utility for the SMBR token within the world of gaming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you guys have a lot of developments coming up. A lot of them. And you said everything's being released on the 21st?
Yeah, that's right, for the PFPs.
Okay. And then that's when all the staking starts and kind of everything gets kicked off, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Cool. So I guess now would be a good time if anybody from the audience would like to raise their hands and ask a question. In the meantime, one question I had, just as like an outside investor looking in, so as a lot of these play-to-earn games have a token minting functionality in their smart contract, so the supply can get diluted over time. Is that something that you guys have? Because when I'm looking at a play-to-earn game and buying their token in hopes that the project grows and then I obviously make money off of the token appreciating, but a lot of these games, they have tokens that are constantly being flooded into the market, diluting it, and then the token price is probably not going to grow faster than the rate that it's getting diluted. So is that something that you guys have incorporated in the game, or is it a fixed supply?
At the moment, we have a fixed supply of 75 million. And, we do have burning and minting capabilities built into all of the contracts, with the exception of the Binance contract, which we'll be updating soon. And that is mainly, I think, for the bridging infrastructures where we have to be able to keep that supply constant. At the moment, because of the Binance structure, that's done through lockup contracts. But once we transition over, it'll be done through burning and minting. So the idea is to keep that between chains constantly at 75 million, no matter what. Now, in the future, I guess, we'll see what happens when it comes to sort of maintaining economic stability. But I mean, we don't have an intention of moving past a fixed supply.
Okay, that's great to hear, because that always worries me with projects, because you get something like Olympus DAO, for example, where they're minting, like 2% of their total supply a day almost, or at one point it was that. And it's like, that's obviously going to crash at some point if they keep that rate up. So that's good to hear. Cole, did you have any other questions? I know you are more familiar with Unreal Engine and all the technical side when it comes to programming the games.
Yeah, of course. I actually really like Unreal Engine, so it's super cool to hear that your team is using that. How many people do you have on your team that are or that have experience with Unreal?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, there's probably like 6 people. I mean, I myself have a lot of experience with it, and we have, a handful of other CG and visual effects artists on this team that do it as well. We also have a couple partnerships with other companies that have large teams of like 50 or 60 people that are based offshore, which I cannot divulge, but we have support structures for sort of a lot of different things. And, as a visual effects company, we often have projects that are in need of a large team, and, we have to be able to scale up and down. But if you're familiar with the visual effects industry, you also know that hiring large staffs can be very risky because you don't know how that work is going to transition throughout the year. So it's sort of one of those things where you're always trying to maintain a, moving target, similar to crypto, which is probably why we're not so phased by it. But yeah, I think that's the, kind of the advantage for us. And also my partner is sort of a pioneer in the motion capture industry and visual effects industry for, film and television, and ran, the VFX and motion capture technology and created it kind of for The Matrix and for Resident Evil and all sorts of other amazing projects. So, I mean, we're in good hands.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really good to hear. I'm really excited for this thing coming up in March or in April.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So one kind of last question is, how can we continue to help support you guys? Because it sounds like a really awesome project that, if we can support you guys in any way, let us know how we can do that.
Yeah, I mean, just getting the word out about Sombra and then the mint on the 21st. We want people to participate and jump into the Discord and just sort of try to get involved in the community and make friends. And that's really all we can ask for.
All right, great. Yeah, and if we continue to grow at a steady pace, we'd love to have you back on in a couple months here, and as our audience grows and we get more people in the group, and I think that could definitely be a beneficial thing for you guys. So we'd be happy to have you back on too.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it so much, guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah, have a good one.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
man. Let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks.